All right, here we go. Welcome into another episode of Indiebnb. Today I am joined by Arian of Guerilla. Arian, how are we today, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me. I'm actually I'm packing for Europe right now. Leaving
Yeah,
tomorrow for the tour.
it's exciting. Yeah, we were lucky to get this slot in with you guys on the Sunday before you guys head out. So I'm excited to kind of get a little bit know you guys a little bit better and ultimately talk a little bit about that touring piece. But obviously you've been with the band from the start. I mean, talk to the people who have never heard of you guys before, and when you guys started this thing, what was the vision, and how has it exceeded your expectations, or been about right where you thought it was going to be?
Well, it didn't really start with the vision. Really, it was like we were all in Massachusetts. Me and Peter were going to school there, and it kind of just started as like, where it's like, what are we gonna do? It's like, you don't just like go to school and then it's like it was a classical school, so it's like lots of people, they graduate, they study classical music, and they go on to do like something with an orchestra. But we were decided to take our chops and start a rock band, and it started, small. I remember like the first tour we ever did was to South by Southwest, and I remember like going to the dean's office to like ask for time off to go play South by Southwest, and it wasn't even like actually an official showcase. It was like a house show, somewhere in Austin, like during South by. But like, I remember feeling very excited, being like, wow, I get to like take time off from school to go tour with my shitty little rock band, drive down to Austin, Texas. And then, playing lots of basement shows. We were lucky to kind of like have this like beautiful scene blooming around us. It's a small town, Boston. So it was just like years of playing with our friends,
Yeah,
and which is great. It was kind of the sort of thing, just like playing every few weeks, um, which is kind of like the best way to like workshop material, really. So you can like sit in a room and write, but like working on music and then playing it at a weird basement show and then playing it at a club a few weeks later. So just lots of playing, man, and playing with like-minded artists and touring with like our favorite bands for years. And then fast forward like 10 years later, and here we are. Some of us are spread out, live upstate. I'm in New York City. It's been good.
awesome, man. Well, obviously, it sounds like touring was a big part of the foundation for you guys. Like, when you guys write and when you're in the studio, like, are you thinking about, all right, how's this going to sound out, in the show? Like, it sounded like you guys had a process where you go in, you write something, play it in person, and then, go from there. So, like, how much different is something that you write in the studio and then where it sounds, the way it sounds in person?
I mean, it varies from album to album. We have a lot of albums, but like this last time around, it was mostly me, Peter, and Cassie during the pandemic, just like hunkered down, working on material, really like post production heavy, which was like a challenge because we were like, all right, we have to try and find a way to incorporate all these like interesting sound effects and stuff um, into the live show. And we weren't sure we were going to be able to pull it off, but we're like, we have to,
Yeah.
So we ended up getting like an extra sampler, another keyboard. Um, and the way it has always kind of gone throughout our recording career is a lot of songs like don't actually end up working live. Funny enough, there's like certain songs that people always request, and it's like, dude, we've never played that live. Like, sorry, it just usually doesn't like make it a bad song. It just kind of just doesn't really translate. There's a few of those on the last
Yeah.
album. So we try and get at least like a little over half of the album at least to play live. But yeah, it's a
Yeah.
struggle. It's like trying it out, and sometimes a few shows in, you're like, yeah, it's not really clicking, and
Yeah.
move on to the next thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was fortunate enough. So how I found you guys was actually through a live show. I was down the street in Atlanta at the Variety Playhouse, and I was seeing this band called Fruit Bats. My buddy Nathan called me and he was like, "Hey man, I'm going to see Gorilla Toss at 11 p.m. aisle 5, and I'm like, well, like right down the street, so fuck it, I'm gonna go. Let's
Oh,
go.
that's where I know you from. I was like, you look familiar. I remember seeing you at the end of the show, and you're like, hey man, and I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's all coming back to me now. Um,
Yes.
so you just kind of stumbled in, huh?
Yeah, I mean, like he had told me about y'all, and he had kind of shared some of y'all's music with me, and then I was like, it sounds like I need to see him live. So whenever you guys, so at that point in the tour, had you guys played some stuff already and kind of worked out the set, or were you guys still kind of working it out with like coming back?
That
Was that y'all's
was
first tour out
that was
since
kind of the
back?
first tour back, if I remember correctly. If it was
Yeah,
Atlanta, it must have honestly been probably like 5 or 6 shows in.
yeah,
So yeah, and that was a good show. I remember we always like playing Atlanta.
yeah. What are some of y'all's favorite venues down there?
Dude, I honestly don't remember. Each time it's somewhere new. We
Yeah,
used to play at this spot that was like in kind of like a blown out part of downtown that was like something gallery. It was a DIY spot and it was pretty big. We played there a couple times. This was probably like 7 years ago. That spot was really cool. I wonder, I'm sure someone who's listening to this or will listen to this that's from Atlanta would know that spot. Um, but the shows are just always like fun there. Yeah.
gotcha, gotcha. Very cool. Well, like whenever y'all are obviously you move on to the next city, go on. I mean, a lot of the tour, I feel like you can get a little bit repetitive. So, like, how do you guys, kind of keep things fresh on a nightly basis? Do y'all switch the set list up? Is it something that y'all, I'm going to play a different way today? Like, what does that look like?
We do switch the set list up every night. There's like,
Yeah,
we work out like different before tour, we work out transitions that might be cool. So we kind of do segues. Sometimes we do like long stretches where there's like only like one break for the entire 45-minute set, which is like that's kind of a fun challenge. It's also kind of intense, It's like really depends on like the energy of the show. Um, so yeah, it's kind of fun to try and like figure out what songs and what like arch will work for the vibe of the room. If it's like more of a mellow show, if it's like, all right, it's gonna be a banger. We got to do a lot of high energy ones. So that keeps it fun,
yeah.
doing interesting segues and set lists. Yeah.
And like when I went to the show, I was very like visually, it's like awesome. There's tons of lights, projector. There's so much going on. Like, how do y'all come up with that part of it as well? Like, is that everybody internal, or is that there's somebody in y'all's crew that's like, all right, I'm the like VFX guy. Like, we're doing
Yeah,
this
we
tonight.
we have a lighting dude. We have had for we got a couple guys now. We got Willie, who we toured with for many years. He's from Macon, Georgia. Fresh Produce Records. He's the man. So
Yeah,
he's been busy with his new record shop. So he's been sitting out the last couple tours. And then our buddy Matthew Mann also does visuals and projector lights. It's kind of just scaled down to just lights at this point. Sometimes we'll do visuals and lights just for like the full sensory overload. But yeah, lights are
yeah,
cool, man. It's kind of like a nice way to like sort of really like uh, I don't know, just like bring like a presentation, sort of like, tell the audience that like this is an experience, kind of. Otherwise, also it's like after years of like doing lights, when you don't have lights, it kind of just feels like you're a bar rock band playing in like a dimly lit room. It's like once you go to the lights, you can't go back. It's sort of like, yeah, we love it. It's fun.
that's awesome. Yeah, I think like that was one of the things that just stood out to me. Other than the just absolute, transitions and y'all being able to play for long periods of time. Like y'all, are you, is that something y'all work on getting in shape for? I mean, like, are you having to like, all right, I know, like we're gonna be doing the 45 minute tonight. I need to drink like a couple extra glasses of water. Like I'm just ready to go, or like,
Definitely, man. I mean, definitely stay hydrated always. No, we practice before we go out on a run. I mean, right now we've been on tour for a minute, so it's like we had a few days off, or actually we had a few days before tour started, like a month ago, where we kind of practiced a little bit. But then once like you start like playing, it's like everything starts to sound tight. And by the end of the tour, like everything is super tight, and it's like kind of just becomes effortless. So it's sort of
yeah,
like you're building up your stamina and then like you kind of hit like the sweet spot, and then you're just like coasting, hopefully from there on out, you know.
Gotcha. Very cool. Well, we'll kind of get in. Obviously, you guys have had spanned a lot of time. I guess for you, what is some one song or something that maybe you had a part in writing that you're like doesn't maybe get a lot of play, but you think that ultimately y'all poured into a lot and would love to give some love to. Which song would that be for you guys?
I think the other guys would agree with me and kind of like trying to hype up Cannibal Capital, the first single.
Mhm.
That was just interesting because it was like the last song that we wrote, and it came together like one of those things where we were just it just like wasn't clicking, and then it all came together in a day. Last song that we wrote ended up being the first song on the album. One of those kinds of situations, which was cool. And I kind of like that one just because there's like it's like musically, like harmonically, like kind of simple, but like what brings it to life is like the insane post production sound design stuff, and like lots of like different details. It's like it's a pop song, but it's not. It's like weird, but also there's hooks in it. I think it's kind of like a good like all encompassing tune, a good mission statement for the most recent album, you know?
For sure. For sure. When you guys like soup to nuts, when you started that song, like you said it all came together in one day. Did y'all start it and then kind of come back to it, or what did that look like? Kind of creating
No,
that.
it was like a session that like Peter had been working on for a minute, and then like there was like finally like I came like in with like this little like silly guitar part for the verse, and then like we tagged on like the intro from like another song into that, and it just kind of was like, like all the pieces were there. With like a lot of like songwriting, it's like a lot of the pieces will just be there, but like it takes a minute to click and be like, oh, like this thing could work with this. You know what I'm saying? So it was just kind of
Yeah.
like it took a moment of clarity to figure that one out.
Gotcha. Well, Cannibal Capital, definitely the song spotlight of our for today. Like within, obviously you guys have gotten into this album, and I've really listened to some very, very early stuff, like some 13 stuff. And then I go on and I turn in Heathen in Me. And I'm like, man, this is, a wild, a journey to this point. So, when you're playing something early on your earliest stuff, like, how much different were y'all then than you are now? And like, is it just, how you guys want to be is, that sound now where it's a little bit more harmonic, a little bit more melodic, or is there, there's a little bit more intense early in the session. So,
Hmm.
talk to me about y'all's kind of
Yeah.
like transition in from the, album to album there.
Yeah, it's definitely intentional. I mean, it's like we've been a band for 10 years, so you don't want to repeat yourself. And I just think the albums are kind of just like indicative of like where we are at in our lives. Like, the music that we were all listening to when like around 2013, 2014, and all the bands that we were playing with. If you listened to like our Jeffrey Johnson, like our first album, I don't even remember what year that was. That might have been like 2012, 2013. And you like listen to all the bands that were playing in Boston at that time, you would be like, oh, this makes sense. It sounds like
Yeah.
they were listening to that music and playing with those bands. And then when we like kind of signed to DFA, we were in New York at that point. I would say that the band's, this album kind of sounds more like we were living in New York at the time. I don't know.
Yeah.
And yeah, we all like, a lot of different musics, and hopefully that shines through on each album.
Gotcha. What's your biggest influence, I guess, and what goes into your songwriting? Like, who do you listen to that you like get inspired by?
I mean, the last album, like we were kind of listening to a lot of, like as me and Peter were workshopping stuff, we were trying to like figure out like different production techniques and be like, oh man, like how they make this record sound like this? Like a lot of stuff from like Warp Records, like One O Tricks Point Never, um, Autechra, like FX Twin, and a lot of like glossy pop stuff like Charlie XCX, Caroline Polachek, um, stuff that just sounds like insane but also amazing on speakers.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. Yeah, it's fun to like listen to records that sound amazing, that make you stop and like really want to turn it up. It's easy to get like sucked into just like getting lost in playlists nowadays, but I still think there's something to be said about albums. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like listening to full albums, like the full start to finish album with like sequencing and like listening, to the flow of like each song. Um, Anyways, it's a long-winded answer, and I kind of went off on a tangent there. But yeah, lots of like modern pop music, electronic music for sure.
Yeah. One thing on here, like we found when we talk with people who are like, they're all very indie, smaller indie bands, or they're, in different parts of their journey. Like a lot of people, like, yeah, the modern pop and like what other people are listening to, like it's good. People, there's a reason why
Yeah,
it's, that it's lifted up so high, and it definitely can play a part in a different person's sound. So that's something we hear a lot. Like, yeah, I listen to a lot of like this popular artists. Like, of course, like
yeah.
there's it's hard not to. But I want to transition over. Obviously, Gorilla Toss is a unique name. We're always curious about band names because there's always either a story. It's like, yeah, we just picked this thing because it sounded cool. So what is it? Is there something special meaning behind it, or is it just something y'all picked out of the hat? Two words that came together.
That's that you can thank Peter for that band name. It's a Donkey Kong reference. I didn't play Donkey Kong. I heard
Yeah,
it's great, so I actually don't. I don't know the specific reference, but Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong, awesome. I got. Yeah, I would have follow up questions like, is it Donkey Kong 64 or Donkey Kong Country? Like,
I would imagine 64, whatever like the OG one is. I don't know. I
yeah.
would guess 64. Yeah.
Yeah. So cool. That's all. That's interesting. Yeah. And then there's a dog featured pretty heavily on a lot of your, posts, your Instagram, everything, Watley. So, what does the dog mean to you guys? Does the dog travel with you? I mean, what's going on there?
Oh, he travels with us big time. He's not coming to Europe, unfortunately. It's like too long of a plane ride. But yeah, Watley's great. Cassie got Watley. Cassie and Peter got Watley like when they moved upstate, just
Mhm.
about after living in NYC, and he kind of just I think they got him for like $200 or something. Like he was like shipped up from Alabama, some sketchy shit like that.
Yeah.
And he just ended up being like the perfect tour dog. Like I will say, I had my doubts. I was like, guys, we can't bring a giant chow chow on tour. Like that's crazy. But it turns out like he doesn't like he needs to pee like once a day. Like we have to stop to pee more than he does. He sleeps like 20 hours a day. Super chill. He's the best. And yeah, so he kind of ended up becoming our mascot,
That's awesome.
incidentally. Yeah.
So one of the, I always love to like hear kind of some stories on tour, but like I always ask about these venues, and you play a ton of different places in short period of time. Like, what are some places that stuck out to you as far as cool venues, or this one place to eat was awesome, or this sound engineer was a wild guy? Like, talk to me more about anything that stuck out to you from this most recent tour.
Wild tour experiences, man. I mean, like silly stuff happens here and there, but it's generally just like everyone is like pretty much just like really nice, and it's like always just like a good time to I don't know, roll up to the venue, and like the sound guy is nice, sound person, excuse me. And I don't know, the front of house person like gets us what we want, and like we don't need much. It's like, if the rider has a little kombucha on there and we get some berries, we're happy with that. So we don't like require too much on that end. But yeah, funny store or good places to eat. Shoot, man, we kind of like stay dogging like Mexican food like pretty much on tour. It's sort of like become an inside joke. Like we pretty much eat Mexican food like every day. So going to find like the hip taco spot whenever we're in town is kind of like our thing, you know. Uh yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. What's your? I mean, all right. So what are your go-to tacos? I mean, are you a red meat Berea kind of guy, or are you more are you more chicken person, or shrimp?
I like
What do you go with?
I like to get a mix if possible. I mean, I'm on this like gluten free thing now, so it's like I pretty much can only eat tacos. Can't do the flour tortilla. I miss
Yeah,
burritos, but tacos, enchiladas. I'll do like I go crazy with tacos. I'll get like 6 tacos and I'll do like 2 chicken, 2 al pastor if the spot looks legit.
yeah,
If the spot really looks legit, I'll get like some tongue or something, like
yeah. Lengua. Oh yeah,
lengua. You got to get the lengua. If it's like at like a legit spot, you can't be going to like I don't know a Chipotle style place like asking for that. But I would say it's the perfect meal. Absolutely, just like 6 tacos with some good salsa verde. And when they do the pickled like jalapeno carrot mix on the side, like ooh, that's it. That's it, baby.
I like it. Is there one spot that stuck out to you, like in a certain town, or?
We stopped at this like one like random spot like driving up to Portland. Um and we like loved it so much that like we went back like a second time when we did like our run with pavement like a month later. I couldn't even actually tell you the name. Like but it's always like the random like yeah, taco trucks like in the middle of nowhere that blow your mind.
Yeah, awesome, man. Well, speaking of that, like our fan question, my buddy Big Head, aka Nathan Robinson, he of course he's the one who called me after I was at Fruit Bats and was like, "Dude, you need to come see Grill Toss with me tonight. It's down the street." I was like,
Nice.
"Let's go." So his fan question to you guys. Big fan. I've now seen you 4 times, twice as headlining and twice opening for Pavement. So two-part question. How does your approach differ when playing with like as an opener versus playing as the headline? And how is it opening for a storied act like Pavement? They're an all-time favorite of mine, and I was always excited to see you guys play with them out west.
Oh yeah, Pavement was great, man. Those guys were just like the nicest people ever. I mean, like so humble and chill, and just like we got to hang out with them like on the final night because we did like 5 shows with them, I guess, in total, and they're all just like dudes. Um, it was definitely like the biggest support tour that we've done, our biggest like opening spots ever. So there were some nerves involved at first because it's like they were all theaters, so they're all seated spots.
Yeah,
So we're like, okay, like well, we're gonna play a 30-minute set, and like probably like people will be walking in while we're playing. Like maybe they'll be paying attention to us, maybe not. But I think it went over well. I mean, granted, people were shuffling in while we were playing. That's just kind of like the role of the opener in
yeah,
big zones like that. But it was actually fun to like play those big rooms because those huge theaters have kind of like this natural like reverb that like kind of like glues all the sounds together. So I think we like read pretty well in like big rooms like that, I will say. And yeah, it's like rooms like that, like the crew, there's like such a production team involved behind that. So it's like you get like everyone, you get like a front of house guy doing sound, you get someone just separately doing your monitor mixes. So like everything sounds really good. Like I would say, you know, compare it to like a lot of the shows we do where it's a little more DIY. You kind of just have to wing it and hope that people can hear, like the vocals and the guitar and the drums. But like when you can hear yourself and you get a nice mix of like yourself and the rest of the band, it's like easy to play, and then it's like way
yeah,
more enjoyable. And then hopefully in turn, I think we play better when we can kind of hear ourselves.
yeah, definitely. And what about is there any different preparation for as being a headliner versus being or sorry, as being a opener versus being a headliner?
Yeah, well, the set times are shorter, so we kind of like need to like hone it in with like
Mhm.
what'll hit the best. It's like 30-minute set versus like an hour set. I think we had like maybe a couple 45-minute sets in there, but yeah, just like trying to figure out like what songs will work best. But other than that, it's like we the setup is the same. We're just like
Yeah,
on a bigger stage. we're farther away from each other. Like the first show we played in San Francisco, like we were trying to like figure out like the configuration just because it was such a big ass stage. And like our keyboard player Sam like ended up like a mile away, like down on the side of the stage. It like there's if you see a picture of it, there probably are pictures. It's like it looks like he's not even in the band. He's just like off on the side of the stage, like mixing monitors or something. It's like, it's like I like being like closer to everyone, but it looks in turn kind of weird if you're all like huddled together on a huge stage. So I guess that's something we can try and work on. So it feels a little weird for sure to play big stages like that.
Is that the first time y'all done something like that with Pavement this past year?
Yeah. I mean, we've done like, support tours. We did a cool tour with like Battles. I don't know if you know those guys back before the pandemic. They're a duo, but those are some pretty big shows and those guys are great too. That was really fun. Um, but yeah, I mean, we're always like trying to like go on tour with our heroes. So who knows what'll happen next? Hopefully something really good.
Before we get into Pete Peterson, like who is that band? Like, for you, like you'd be kind of fangirling a little bit or fanning out a little bit for the first tour when you got to meet him. Like what would be an ideal act to open up for that you'd be really, really stoked about?
Man, it'd be really cool if we could like do some shows with King Gizzard.
Yeah.
I would say because we've been listening to them a lot in the van, and they're just like a super fun group, and they put on a really cool live show. Saw them once back, I think it was like 2015. Big band too. I forget how many dudes are in there. But that'd be fun, and I feel like that's like the perfect kind of like their crowd could really vibe with our music too. So it'd be fun kind of going into that situation, playing to their crowd. Yeah, that would be
Very cool. All right, King Gizzard, if you're listening, you got a potential opener here. Let's get it hooked up.
Yeah, they're definitely listening. They're gonna like, I'm gonna be thanking you. We're gonna get the DM tonight, being like, "Yo, heard you guys on the podcast."
100%, they're listening. All right, we'll get into Pete Peterson's party pack questions and wrap this thing up here. It's gonna be a this or that, rapid fire. So we're gonna go in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Pete Peterson's party pack questions. Cake or pie?
Pie. Key lime pie.
Uber. Ooh, yeah, I like key lime pie. Uber or Lyft?
Ideally neither, but Lyft.
Lyft. Okay. All right. Gatorade or Powerade?
Gatorade.
Gatorade. Is it in you? I like it. All right. Night in or night out? What are you liking better?
After a long tour, night in. After not touring, night out.
Got it. Okay. Would you rather hit a home run or score a touchdown?
Home run.
Home run. All right. Hitting bombs. I like it. Ninja or pirate? What do you identify more with?
Ninja.
Hands down. Okay. Candy corn or candy pumpkins?
Whoa. Candy pumpkins? Is that like candy corn but shaped like pumpkins?
Yeah. You never had candy pumpkins?
No. Is that a Southern thing? I ain't never seen candy pumpkins. I mean, I love candy corn, and I love Halloween, so I'm gonna have to say candy pumpkins.
All right. Tendies or wings? I need to start gluten free. So.
Ooh, it's gonna have to be wings because those tendies probably have flour on them, my man.
Yeah, unfortunate. Ranch or blue cheese with those wings?
Ranch.
Okay. All right. Would you rather have toast or a bagel?
Oh, I love bagels. Bagels are my desert island food, man. Bagel with lox, forget about it.
Okay. All right. I like it. Are aliens real?
Definitely. 1,000%. Come on.
Is Bigfoot real?
Probably not.
Is love at first sight real?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. If you walk into a party, what are you more like? And your jam comes on. What are you more likely to do, the robot or the worm?
Oh, probably the robot. I'm not getting on the floor, man. No way. Sticky beer.
No floor. I like it. You guys eat a lot of Mexican food. Guac or queso?
Oh, guac for sure. Queso? I don't know. Hot cheese, overrated.
All right. I like it. All right. Candles, unscented or scented? What do you like better?
I feel like if I'm gonna light a candle, I want a little scent. Yeah,
A
scented
little
for
scent.
sure.
Okay. Sunrises or sunsets?
Sunset.
Okay. Cheddar or Swiss?
We go with cheddar.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
All right. And the final question of Pete Peterson's party pack of questions, as always. Um, who are two bands that we don't know that we probably should check out? They could be bands that you guys have toured with, bands that you are local and buddies with. Just give us a couple bands.
Hmm. Bands that you should check out. Let's see, what were we jamming in the car? I mean, you might have even heard of some of these bands. Horse Lords, one of my
Horse
favorites.
Lords.
Old Pals. Shoot, I'll plug those guys any day, man. Those guys are great, and they're all like geniuses, musical geniuses in their own respect. So definitely check them out if you're just like into weird kind of krautrock. And who else? How about Turbo World? Have you heard of Turbo World? Those
I
guys are
have not
great. You
heard of
should check them
Turbo.
out. Our old bass
Turbo
player,
World.
Steve Cooper, that's his band. Like really cool prog with like some like fun hooks. Uh, Great guy, great band. Definitely
I
check
like
them
that.
out.
I like that. So Horse Lord and Turbo World and old pals. Is that what you said?
All old pals.
All old pals. I like it. I like it. Well, we will definitely check them out. Well, Arian, appreciate you coming on the podcast for today, and best of luck. Packing up for Europe. I know it's going to be a great tour over there. You know, anything you want to say to the people before you leave? Bon voyage.
Oh man, to anyone that's been coming out to see us over the years, thank you, and please keep coming out because we got more new stuff coming. And thanks for having me. Nice to see you again, Grant.
Yeah, you got it, man. Awesome.